Thank you, Mary Ryan. My name is Bruce Moore with 142 site. I have three things I want to address with you just very quickly. On behalf of Vanessa, the animal shelter, and the animals it serves, I'd like to thank the estate of Felder Jean Smedley, who last week donated $141,030.97 to the shelter, restricted to providing care for the animals. If Vanessa was still in charge, the estate would have received a handwritten thank you card. I doubt that anyone from the city took the time to recognize that gift. Because Vanessa's not here, the shelter staff was instructed not to deposit the check into the city account. Instead, Scott Gary retrieved the check. Whether Parks and Rec is aware of the restricted nature of the gift or whether those restrictions will be honored remains to be seen. But thanks to Vanessa's absence, there will no longer be any oversight on behalf of the shelter as to the disposition of those funds. This gift is noteworthy not just for the amount, but because it reflects the passion that some people have for animals in the animal shelter. We who volunteer and work at the animal shelter share that passion, and we share it with Vanessa. Vanessa put her passion to work, and because of it, in her tenure, the shelter has become a better place for the animals, the volunteers, the employees, and the citizens of Salina. I want to finish with an apology. This will likely be the last time I address the City Commission. Some of my comments today have been blunt and hurtful. While you don't enjoy being taken to task, I don't enjoy being here either. There's no walk in the park. It's been frustrating at best to get and keep your attention, much less have you listen. I'm not generally politically outspoken, but when I think I see something wrong, I feel it's my duty to stand up and say something. Back in June, with the William Chevy email, you were put on notice of problems between the city manager, Parks and Rec, and the Salina Animal Shelter. The purpose of the email was to get you, the City Commission, to ask questions and ensure the Parks and Rec and Jason Gage were not pursuing their own agendas. The hope was that we would get some adults in the room to prevent mismanagement. We expected the City Commission to conduct an independent inquiry and arrive at the facts, not accept what was spoon-fed from staff. Instead, from our view, instead of acting, you got some popcorn and retired to the bleachers to watch this train wreck occur in slow motion. Perhaps you saw your role as picking up the pieces, not preventing the train wreck from happening. To those of you who say there was nothing you could have done, I disagree. If Mr. Schrag were to announce that effective September 19, 2018, Parks and Rec would no longer allow women to occupy leadership roles, I would expect outrage and pushback from every single one of you. I wouldn't expect you to sit back and say, well, let's wait and see if anybody says anything. Whether anybody says anything or not, there's a principle at stake here, and that we expect you to have and stand for those principles. Now, the apology. At times, my comments to the commission have used language that was inflammatory and maybe even insulting. I'm sorry for that. My language is born of frustration. I have to admit that I came here very naive. I believe that ours is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not a government of bureaucrats, by bureaucrats, for bureaucrats. I was apparently wrong. I'm sorry I wasted your and my time. In the meantime, save yourself some time and effort and don't bother seeking my vote for re-election. I stand with Vanessa. I will remember and I will vote. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Brenda Armijo, and I live at 1934 Starlight Drive, and I am really happy to be a Salina citizen. I've spent a lot of time making a lot of phone calls. I have called every city that I can find that either one of Chris Cotton or Scott Gary have worked at. And one of the questions that I have asked every one of those cities, and I have to be honest, every one of them have been extremely friendly, went out of their way to answer the question. One of the first phone calls that I made was to Harrisonville, Missouri. That, my understanding, is the hometown of Scott Gary. He worked there at the same time that Chris Cotton did. They evidently developed a relationship. But I asked, my question to every one of those was, how do you guys handle your animal shelter? Everyone's more than happy to explain to me how that works. The animal shelter is handled by the police department in Harrisonville. The Parks and Rec has zero to do with that facility. They also have a third party that they contract with to take care of the animals if they're picked up. Okay? I thought, okay, so they didn't have much experience with animal shelters at that job. All right? So then I called Joplin. And I found out again in Joplin that they have a humane society that is on a third party contract. And that on that one there, basically is the health department that oversees animal control. Again, there is zero interaction with the Parks and Recs and the animal shelter, okay? So then I called Normal, Illinois. They tell me that their animal shelter and anything to do with that is all handled by the county, that the city supports that with a fee, but they have absolutely no administrative function with that. Therefore, Mr. Cotton had no interaction with the animal shelter or had anything to do with that, okay? So I went on through the process, continued to call. Everybody wants a health department, it's a police department, but never could I find. So then I got really crazy, okay? I started calling other communities. I called Gardner because Scott had worked there as well. No, they have a third party that they pay. It's a vet office that takes care of that. And that's handled by someone else, the police department as well, okay? So I'm sitting here thinking, who made the decision to hire this man, Chris Cotton, and put him over the animal shelter? Now, I pulled up the budgets, which is all information we can see, and I don't remember all the numbers. But for someone poor like me, that we pay our bills and I'll probably never retire, we spend a lot of money on that animal shelter. Why would we put someone in charge of that with absolutely no expertise, training, or experience?
Amen.
We did not vet this applicant for one of the duties or functions. So in my opinion, we failed Mr. Cotton just as well as we failed the city of Salina. We put him in a position, it's about like me telling you, Dr. Davis, I helped my sister study when she was going through nursing school, and I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, so now I can run your surgical department at the hospital. Because I'm a good manager. I did really good things. My sister passed, and she's a great nurse. That's about as logical. And I'm trying, I know this seems petty, but let's get real. Now we have a situation that's not going to go away. I can tell you right now, when I look at Vanessa Cowie, which I've mentioned before, I have never met the woman. I've only seen her speak one time. I've never met Chris Cotton. I spoke to him once, and I'll tell you about that later. But, and it wasn't negative. It wasn't negative, okay? But I see a young lady who volunteered at the shelter. Then she was hired at the shelter. It's my understanding she went through a rather traumatic experience for any young person, for any person. She left for a while, she came back, and she applied to run that shelter. While she's at that shelter, she's in the same position as every department in the city. They could sure use more money to do the things that they need to do. But the money's just not there. There's not enough money to do everything everybody thinks that the city ought to do. And I'm hoping you all agree with me. Okay? So she figured out a way to get money through grants to do some of the things that she felt was critical to improve our shelter. Tell me any other city employee right now is doing that. Anyone under 30 years of age that's doing that. And we're not talking $50. We're talking thousands of dollars that she's done. Then we have a scenario, we bring in a new management over here. It sounds like things went pretty well with the prior Parks and Rec. Okay, so probably nobody was looking at making any changes because things were going pretty well. We have new management, okay? I don't know anything personally bad about Mr. Cotton, and I won't say anything personally bad about it because I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people and I can't find anybody that can tell me anything about him. Okay, I looked in the newspaper. I'm having trouble finding anything in our local paper about Mr. Cotton, okay? I just don't get it. He was a star in Joplin. You can find all kinds of articles about him in Joplin. But here, he must be running, keeping down on the low on it. I don't know. But now we have a situation. Our animal shelter director was contacted by the Saline County Sheriff's Department to assist them with a call on some animals that they felt like were in distress, being abused, so forth, so on. Who else were they supposed to call? Tell me, who were they supposed to call besides Vanessa? My understanding, that's her job. That's what we pay her to do. She went out there and looked at those animals. I've had multiple vets, and I won't put their name out there because they aren't here speaking, and I won't put them in a position of having to defend what they told me. She called every dadgum vet in town, and not one of them would go look at those animals. Not one. Do you know why? I looked at the vet that I paid thousands of dollars to, and he said nobody wanted to get involved. Nobody wanted to get involved in a legal issue. Nobody wanted to have to testify in court. And what if you happen to treat animals that were a family member? Man, what a horrible, terrible mess to be in. She had her back against the wall, and she made a decision. Who else was supposed to make it? Mr. Cotton? Scott Gurry? You? You? Or any of you? Where were you? We have an attitude in our city community. I've talked to 3 retired city employees that worked there almost their whole adult lives. They said, oh, you don't talk to a commissioner. Don't you dare talk to a commissioner, because you can't do that. You'll get fired. I said, so what do if your boss is asking you to do something that you know is dead wrong? Well, then you go to that supervisor. Well, what if that supervisor and his supervisor are all part of the problem? Where does that person go? Let me tell you where they go. If they're a fighter like this young lady appears to be, and again, I don't know her, I'm just going from her actions, she gets an attorney. She builds a case. She files a complaint against her supervisor. And now, we've got this laid out here. It's going to cost us money. And it's not going to be cheap. It is not going to be cheap. There's going to be a settlement, and there's going to be a gag order. And you know who's going to pay for that? Me. Everybody here, and even you, and you, and you. I pull up all the things I can read about Chris Cotton and Scott. I read a lot of amazing things that they've done. But I also read that Mr. Cotton was reprimanded when he was in Joplin for not following procedure. It appears, just from the articles, his response was not to stand up and fight, because what he felt like he did was right. He found another job and he moved his family to Illinois. I don't know if what he did was wrong or not. I really don't know, but he didn't stay and fight. Then the gentleman that was his assistant was put into that position. That was Scott. And I'll just read to you what the newspaper there said. The golf course was a $254,262,000 loss. Scott then they went to the commissioners because they were $925,000 over their annual budget for the Parks and Rec. That was an accumulated amount, not only during Scott's tenure, but the prior tenure before him. They were taking money out of the general budget, the general fund, to pay those fees. This is in the city minutes for Joplin. I'm not making this up. You can pull it up and read their minutes just like I did. Okay? So the city covered it, amended it. Not even a month later, he comes back and he wants to hire a golf pro because the golf course is losing money. The finance manager and the legal department, the lawyer, advised against it. He did it anyway. Then they needed to replenish some of the golf carts and the mowing equipment. The finance director, in writing, stated that she felt like the terms were poor, the interest was high, and it was a negative contract for the city. Okay? The finance. The legal department again said the same thing. Guess who signed that agreement? I don't know why I did it. I don't know if it was right or wrong. I don't know. But what it tells me, if it's in the city minutes and it's being discussed with the commission in front of everybody that lived in Joplin, it evidently didn't follow procedure. Okay? After that, he went to work at Gardner. Seems like things weren't good with him, except like he couldn't get along with the administrator of the school district. But maybe she was a tough woman to deal with. I don't know. Okay? Because when I pulled that up, we ought to all thank God we aren't living in Gardner, because their city administrator just resigned Friday, and they gave her a $300,000 severance package. Doesn't sound like things are good there either, does it? But what I am asking, and I am almost begging, stand up and don't waste our trust. I don't know if you did anything wrong or right. I don't know if you did anything wrong. I don't know if any of you did anything wrong, because I'm not privy to that information. But what I ask of you is all 5 of you go to the time, to whatever you guys call it, the hearing, the review that Vanessa's going to have with Mr. Schrag, and you audit that. You listen to all the evidence from both sides. And then you sit down and you write your personal opinion of how you, the people we elected, would judge that situation from all of the evidence. Don't put your name on it. Then I want you to hand that to these 2 men. Type it on a computer so they don't know whose it is. And then you look at that before you make that decision. I don't know what's wrong or right. I don't know if Vanessa did something terrible. But I do know that we have failed our community and how this whole situation's been handled. We put someone in charge. And I don't know if it was Jason Gage, I don't know. But we had someone supervising the department with absolutely no prior history or experience in how that department should be run. And I would like to know who should have made that decision on those animals if it wasn't her. Who? Who do you call? Or should she have turned her back and walked away and said, I don't care? That's my comment, okay? I don't have anything against you. When I look at you, Mike Hoppick, you know what I see? I see a young man coaching. Coach pitched softball. My son hit the ball and nailed you right in the gut. And you smiled and patted him on the head. You know? I see you as your wife being the nurse that took care of my husband when he came out of surgery. Don't know you well. My kids participate in some sports with you. Dr. Davis, you know what I see when I see you? I see Halle Berry. I've held that baby. She's played with my little Reese. And your wife has a smile that can light up a room. Okay, that's what I know about you. And she seems like such a wonderful woman. You can't be a bad man. Mr. Ryan, I have a kinship to you. I could open my mouth and have the best intentions and stick my foot in it and offend more people than I could ever dream of. There are times my kids always say, you know, Mom, she's never hurt anybody's feelings. Oh my God, but the way she says things sometimes, my pleasure. And the other thing is, never had the pleasure of interacting with you personally, but I've interacted with your family members, your nieces, your brother, sister-in-law. I've hauled one niece of yours around, and she's as crazy and wild as they come, and thank God we have people like her. Unless I don't know you either, but I do know you have a heart. And by God, we need hearts, because nothing would change if people didn't have heart. Nothing. You, sir, I pray for you every day for what you're going through, and you're still here doing what you committed to do. I don't do this. My husband told me, you realize who is stupid enough to run for commissioner? He said, all there is going to be abuse, criticism, and we talked about it, and he said, these have got to be people, either they're gluttons for punishment, or they really do want to do something for this community. So I am asking you, restore our faith in you. Please, restore our faith in you. Do not let us lose this asset of Vanessa Cowie. Because you know what? They're not going to come along very easy. And I can tell you right now, she's not going to go without a fight. She will not go without a fight. And I about mark my words. If you don't fire her, I'll bet anybody in this room $100 that Mr. Cotton will be looking for another job. Not because he doesn't know. Not because he we've ever had. But I don't think he could take not winning. I don't think that he could do that. And I'm judging that all just by what I read, and I could be dead wrong. But if anyone wants to take me up on that $100 bet, just give me a call. My name's Brenda Armijo, and I live at 1934 Starlight Drive. Thank you for your time.
I'm Nicole Grove. I live at 231 South Clark Street. You know, standing up here after listening to that about cotton, you know, we're losing our gymnastics, our city rec gymnastics because of Chris Cowie. He refuses to make us a building. My daughter's over in the Memorial Hall right now, a building that needs to be condemned because of the asbestos and the lead-based paint and the fact that it's falling apart. Over there practicing her heart out right now because I can't afford to go to the YMCA and pay private fees. So I have to go through the rec department. She's getting ready to lose her dream because we're getting ready to lose our gymnastics because we can't build a place for gymnastics for the city of Salina. You know what? Vanessa was brave enough to go out and get over $350,000 in grant money to make our animal shelter better. Why couldn't he go out and make us a place for us, our little girls to go out and have gymnastics? I don't understand it. We can build soccer fields. We can build that field house that's falling apart. We can do all these other things, but we can't make sure that our little girls have a place to go practice gymnastics in a safe environment. Vanessa needs to be reinstated immediately. I say that every week, and until it's done, I'll still come and I'll say it every week. Vanessa's done nothing but good things for that animal shelter. And you know what? And the community. We need leadership in that animal shelter. Chris Cotton ain't over there helping. Has he been over there once since any of this started to help them out? Not that I'm aware of, not that I've heard anybody say. Not once. They're lacking leadership, Mr. Ryan. Get her back there. That's where she belongs. And I'm telling you too, Mike, get her back there. That's where she belongs. I pay taxes in this city every day. I pay my property taxes. I'm a homeowner. My husband pays his city taxes. We pay taxes on everything we buy in this town. I pay the wages. We pay the wages for everybody that works for the city. This is our money. And I'm not willing to pay for a silent, gag-ordered settlement that's gonna have to come if you guys let her go. That's not okay. Bring Vanessa back now. That's all I got.
I'm from Salina, Kansas. I'm a volunteer at the animal shelter, and I've been up here before, the last couple of meetings. And I just wanted to say yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely, everything that's been said today. I think the people of Salina are getting really frustrated with this situation. I think they're getting mad. I don't get mad. I just get on the internet. This last weekend was my 55th high school graduation reunion of Central High School. Now, isn't that just wonderful? I mean, we all get to have these experiences, unless you're a dog or a cat or a rabbit. And then you're put in the shelter, and you're at the mercy of whoever is the administrator over them. Right now, we have a no-kill shelter. It is such a phenomenal idea that I have spread this information far and wide over the internet. And the reason why I told you about my 55th is because when I showed up this weekend, I had friends from 55 years ago come up and ask me, where are you in this situation with the animal shelter? these were not friends from Salina. These were people from Philadelphia, Florida, Texas. I loved our Texas person because she's still very active here in Salina. I will not name names, but you would know her if she walked in. And she was very disturbed, as we are. So many people talk to me on the internet and tell me how disturbing this whole situation is. And so I remember reading right in the beginning of this situation that the city was kind of concerned about negative publicity that might come from all of this. So when I made my poster, I started, obviously I'm in favor of bringing Vanessa back. And I started, the next time around, that was the first go round, with a few talking points on the back, but right now I'm going to address publicity. These were clippings from the Salina Journal. Those are not duplicates from one page to another. These are individual daily journalism that was not positive for the city of Salina. This isn't positive publicity. Since I made this, we have this one and another one that I failed to clip. It would have been over here. But I would like to see on my sign is, City of Salina makes a positive contribution to the animal shelter. Vanessa is back. That's the headline I want to see. This is what I want my friends in South Carolina. You know, South Carolina right now, it used to be my home for many, many years. And they're flooding, and they have got so many problems. And I have a friend who is an animal activist down there, and she got on the internet and wrote to me today, in the middle of all this mess, and said, give me an update. I want to let everybody here know what's going on. How do you like the way the word is getting out? This is publicity. Is this what you want Salina to look like to all people who are thinking of maybe coming back, moving here? I want you to know I made sure everyone at the 55th knew that I was involved in this because I just love to spread the word. And I also thought maybe you'd just love to see our t-shirts. Mr. Moore made sure we all had these fantastic t-shirts if we wanted one. And I think my favorite part of here is says, I remember, I vote. That's incredibly important. The next time Mr. Cotton wants money for Parks and Recs, to water the green grass, or to change things, why don't you tell him? Why don't you find the money? Vanessa did. Vanessa brought in $350,000 from just one of our supporters. $350,000 in order to make the changes. So I suggest that our administrators use her business plan and quit taxing the people and go out and get money if they want improvements. Because obviously, Vanessa did. I have one last thing. In the newspaper on, this clipping is not on here. It was from Wednesday, September 12th, and it's a quote. And it is from our interim city manager, and I've not met you before, but I sure wouldn't like your job. I'll tell you, that's a tough one. And it says, quote unquote, "It's on me to responsibly, objectively, fairly make a decision. I openly acknowledge that Vanessa Cowie has done terrific things for the animal shelter. I respect and appreciate what she's done. Thank you."
Hi, my name is Mary Rapp. I live at 2510 Berwick Circle. I've been a volunteer at the animal shelter for about 14 years. I'm a retired school teacher. Used to go after school all the time, and now I go about 20 to 25 hours per week. I love going down there, and I see a lot of things while I'm down there. But I'm here to speak for the animals. I haven't said anything the last couple of meetings, but I thought, you know what, the animals are sitting there, and that's why I go down there, because I love the animals. They have no voice, but I'm sure if they did, they would say, please bring Vanessa back. When I first started volunteering there, it was a kill shelter. And every, we go, what we do, like what I do, I love working with the dogs. So when I go, I exercise the dogs, I get to know them. You go in and, you brush them, and you bathe them, you just do whatever you can do to get to know those animals. But what I didn't realize when I first started there is that Thursdays was the day that they put animals down. And I know some of you probably remember that, Sue, I'm sure you did too. And, oh, that was hard. I never understood that, but the biggest reason was because our animal shelter would get full. There was only 32 kennels, and a lot of the animals that were put down were just fine, but maybe they were older, maybe no one had looked at them for a couple of weeks, but that was really hard. And I went home and I was pretty upset about it. My husband said, well, you don't have to go. And I said, no, I'm going to still go. And I stuck it out. It kept going. And it was just one of those things. On Thursdays, you could see that, and it was hard on the officers also. And it's hard on everybody when they have to do that, but those decisions had to be made because there wasn't enough room. But things really changed when Vanessa came, and it became a no-kill shelter. And now the dogs and cats are safe. The older and the sick ones, I brought some pictures. I take a lot of pictures of the dogs while I'm there because they're in the newspaper. But like Sissy here, she's this one right here. She came in about 10 days ago. Her owner died. She's 10 years old. She's awesome. She's good with dogs, cats, kids, house trained. And it kills me every time I go in there because, well, she's still there, but she's going to get adopted. But she would have been one of the first ones that would have been put to sleep if we were a kill shelter, because she's older. But she's going to get a home, and someone's going to love her. The other reason they're safe is because Vanessa, her staff, the volunteer, we find if we get full at the shelter, we find rescues, and then Vanessa allows us to do that. She has a lot of contacts. You guys, I sit back and I watch her down there and I go, wow, because like I said, I was in the school district for 35 years, and I thought, that girl, she's got energy, and she does not sit down. She's never in her office. If she is, it's for a short time. She is out there. She is working at the desk. You will see her clean kennels. I've seen her bathe dogs, pick ticks off the dogs, groom animals that came in that were just barely alive, because she has such a love for those animals, and that's why I stayed. She has a respect for her staff and the volunteers, and they have that with her. They feel the same way. They trust her, she trusts them, they all work together. They have one goal, is to help the animals, all the animals. And we've seen pigs, goats, roosters, chickens. I didn't realize the animal shelter had all this come in, but yes, all those animals come in. Rabbits, anything that people will find, they bring to the animal shelter. She spends hours upon hours. I know she has to be thinking of ideas. I go sometimes early in the morning, sometimes I'm there till after 5. I know I've heard her say sometimes, I know she works 10, 11, 12 hours a day. The grants are a big deal. I don't know if any of you have ever written a grant, but I have. And it takes hours to write those grants and you might write, I remember writing when I was in school, I think I maybe got one out of the 100 that I filled out. They are very hard to get, and she must have a knowledge and a great way of doing that because she can get those grants. The changes that she's made in the animal shelter the last few years have been awesome. The spay and neuter clinic. Both the dog and the cat kennels have completely upgraded with all the funds that she's gotten. The trap and release program. It used to be, and I don't have specifically the numbers, but I know the numbers of animals that were put down every year had to be, I'm thinking the cats were 600-700, if not more, right, Sue? And the dogs could be about the same. Those numbers are not like that anymore since she started. She also knows how to deal with the public. The other thing I've noticed since I've been down there is that is a tough place to work. Most of the people that come in are not very nice. If they're coming in to get their dog or their cat or something, their animal was because it was picked up, you guys, they can be mean. Some of those people that come in, I think, whew, they've got a tough job. But you know what? Those officers have to keep their cool. Vanessa has to keep her cool. And that takes a lot to do that. She knows a lot of people. She reaches out to the other organizations. I know that several times she drove to Arizona animals, taking her own time to get animals out of the shelter. The pit bull situation, she has, and a lot of people think the pit bulls are put down. They're not either. She finds rescues for those, or we try to help her. And the thing is that's not easy either because a lot of other shelters won't take them. It's going to be a very sad day for the animals, the staff, and the volunteers if Vanessa is not reinstated. It just makes you really sad thinking that that's going to happen this week. The compassion for animals is associated with goodness of character, and she has good character. She has saved the lives of hundreds of animals. Please do the right thing. Bring Vanessa back. Please help the animals who don't have a voice. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Barb Jansen, Salina, Kansas. I too am a volunteer at the Salina Animal Shelter and have been so for at least 7 years. And I too am here to again support the reinstatement of Vanessa Cowie to the Director of Salina Animal Services. And my work experience in Salina in the past includes Assistant Health, Phys Ed and Recreation Director and Aquatics Director of the YWCA from 1988 to 2004. And I supervised 20 plus employees, part and full time. So I have some experience of being supervised and supervising others. And just a reminder, the YWCA mission is engraved on my heart and soul, which is dedicated to the elimination of racism, empowerment of women, and promotion of peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. And this mission is related to my comments today. When I started volunteering at the animal shelter 7 years ago, I would leave there, as was mentioned just previously, I had a sick feeling in my stomach because of all the healthy animals that were put to sleep, and especially the cats and kittens. In fact, the release rate was somewhere around 50% of cats put to sleep a year. And I'm sure that most people in Salina were not aware of what was going on. And I'm sure they weren't aware that animals were put to sleep every Thursday. And now, thanks to the change in attitude and vision by Vanessa, the shelter, as mentioned before, is a no-kill shelter. And that means at least 90% of the animals or more are adopted out or rescued. As I've stated previously, to terminate Vanessa would be a tragedy for those working and volunteering, the animals, and the city of Salina. Her vision and hard work has brought the shelter to a level Salinans can be proud of. Now, regarding Ms. Cowie's actions in the Florence animal cruelty case and her treatment by staff, I asked first to the city manager or anybody else, are there written policies and procedures for handling animal cruelty cases such as occurred with the Florence? Is there anything written down saying what should be done in that case?
Ma'am, this really isn't a question and answer period, so if you have some specific questions, you can write it in writing to the staff. That they can respond.
Okay,
We're not
it's,
on
I'm not
trial here.
supposed to ask questions.
You can ask questions, but we
You don't have to
we don't
respond.
have to respond.
Okay. Well, that would be a question that I would have, and it was asked, or previously, if she was not to respond in that case, who was supposed to respond? Who was gonna do something about it? And I just don't see how giving her opinion about the condition of the animals could be seen as overseeing or over-exceeding her authority. And so I have another question, but I guess I'll ask it and not expect an answer. Can the phones be billed for the care of the animals? And if they don't have the money, can they be asked to sell their livestock, et cetera, and reimburse the city? I mean, is that a possibility? I know that donations to the shelter were used to pay for that, as stated by the Journal. But I really doubt that the people that donated that money, I mean, I don't know how they feel about that. So the people that are involved in the case, shouldn't they be the ones paying for the care of the animals? Now, regarding Ms. Cowie's treatment, professionals should talk respectfully to each other. Name-calling and belittling should have no place in the workplace. In a meeting with city staff, I have recently learned regarding the bill for the care of the fallen animals, Ms. Cowie made a suggestion that certain animal rights groups could help cover costs of the animals' care. Well, she was shut down by staff people, told to shut up, that she didn't know what she was doing, and called a derogatory feminine name. This isn't treating her with this dignity and respect. And is this how female professionals are treated in Salina by some staff? I thought to myself, if it were a male in this position, would he have been talked to the same way or even put on administrative leave in this situation? Ms. Cowie is due an apology. Not reinstating her is a disservice to Salina and sends a message that a woman's expertise, opinions, and suggestions may not be valued. So I asked the city manager, do the right thing, reinstate Vanessa as director, and let her get back to work doing the thing she loves, saving animals.
I'm Anita Speck. I live at 532 West Jewel, and unlike most of the people here, I've only had casual contact with the animal shelter. I've only been to the shelter a few times, and when I've been there, I've been impressed with how clean it is, how well run it is, and how nice the staff is. And I chalk that up to the leadership of Ms. Cowie, and that can't be gainsaid. Everything that I've heard here this afternoon talks about all of the great things that she's done for the shelter. And again, why is that being ignored? I wanted you to get the perspective of somebody that's just a casual observer looking at this from the paper, and I wanted you to know my opinion. The more I read, the madder I get. What this looks like is that a good, decent, competent woman is being picked on and attacked because she was following procedures to the best of her ability. When we started here, this meeting today, everybody stood up, put their hand over their heart, and said, this is a country of liberty and justice for all. And it doesn't look to me like Ms. Cowie is getting justice. That's just my opinion.
John Blanchard, 1117 State Street. I think probably Bruce Moore said it first and probably said it best, is that I think what we have here is a situation where there's very little trust in the five of you. And unfortunately, I think that trickles down to staff. I just want to say a word about staff for just a second. I had the great honor for 4 years and 9 months to sit where most of you are. I never sat in that chair, but the rest of the 4 I occupied. And I got to tell you, I spoke to staff on a regular basis, mostly people in planning and zoning and engineering. I consider Dan Stack to be one of the most qualified, customer-friendly, willing to help people that I've ever met. I hate to think that because I talked to Dan outside of the chain of command that I could have gotten him fired. You know, I have a great deal of respect for Dean Andrew. I think he's a great planner, and being a planner and landscape architect myself, I would always like to bounce different ideas off of Dean. I had no idea that I was putting Dean's job in jeopardy. Same thing for John Berger, same thing for John Henry, Keith Ganson-Miller, most of the folks over there. I was lucky to establish friendly relations and friendships with staff, and I think it made me do a better job. So I think one thing that we need to fully understand as commissioners is that trust is the cornerstone of your business, and you're losing trust. And I think part of that is because you were unable to take your role as a decision maker appropriately on June 25th. I think a lot of this started to fall apart on June 25th. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think probably it was around I know it was a couple of weeks after Jason Gage left that Vanessa was served with a notice of pending termination and so forth. So your role as a decision maker, okay? I came up last week and I asked you, did any of you ever ask the city attorney when he was interpreting the animal cruelty statutes for a second opinion or a more qualified opinion than he and or his junior attorney at his firm had? I don't expect them to be experts in the animal cruelty law, but I do expect them to give you advice, and I believe that's what they did. I'm not going to sit here and judge his advice, but I'm just going to tell you this. You're the decision makers. None of you decided to ask critical questions about, you know, how things happen, except one. June 25th, a timeline was requested by Commissioner Hodges. You've never delivered a timeline. You've never delivered who knew what and when did they know it. Also, from the advisory position of the city attorney, you're advising them what to do. They take the action and they make the decision. Just as, and I'll tell you, I received an attorney general's opinion that I had filed a complaint against the commission for open records, and I received a reply back on Thursday that said you guys violated the Kansas Open Records Act. Okay? And I think part of that is because you didn't bother to ask critical questions at a time that you needed to know. That's your duty. Your duty is to do your due diligence and to not just take what the city manager says or what the city attorney says and then just rubber stamp that as your decision. I think that's where we went wrong on this. On June 25th, when you were asked to approve an action item to extend the spending authority by over $100,000 on this item, you should have been asking very critical questions at that time of staff, not just the city attorney. I'm picking on you. I don't mean to, but you know the city manager at the time dodged questions. You go back and you watch the video from June 25th. There was a lot of, oh, well, the judge has got to do this and the judge has got to do that. Well, you know what? The judge acted, and the judge didn't weigh all the stuff that the city manager said, oh, the judge has to weigh. The judge acted decisively, and that case is moving forward. So I understand that you may be talking about this I usually get notices about changes in the agenda. I didn't receive one. Am I correct to understand that you'll be talking about the open records violation later in this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, what item is that? While you're looking, I'll just ask the mayor, since he's the presiding officer here. Mr. Mayor, do you plan to entertain public comment during that item? Okay.
7.7.
7.7, okay. Well, I'll just leave this at that. I think we have great staff. I think I think one of the things we need here is a paradigm shift, because I think we have a cultural problem. We have a culture of secrecy, cover-up, retaliation, and intimidation, okay? My issue that deals with the Kansas Open Records Act is the perfect example of this, okay? The Vanessa Cowie incident is the perfect example of this. Unfortunately, the Board of Zoning Appeals action that was taken last week is an example of that, okay? I feel somewhat responsible in a small way for where Vanessa Cowie is now. About, a month and a half ago, I asked her if it would be okay if former Mayor Aaron Householder and I came over and promoted a free adoption event that they were having at the shelter. And she said that would be great. We had about 7,500 people view those videos, and all of those animals were gone, with the exception of maybe 2 dogs, in a matter of hours, a few hours, most of them before noon. I had one person tell me, gosh, we saw your video, we came down here and got a cat. We got the last one. You know, I feel like, because you guys don't like me, and that's fine. And that, and I get that. But you know what? I feel like you're retaliating against Vanessa Cowie because of her association with me. Just like you punished Melissa Hodges for her association with me, just like you punished Mike Troe for his association with me. So I think you guys need to take a clear look at your secrecy, the cover-up, in this case, retaliation against innocent people, good people. And you need to quit intimidating staff who I believe benefit and do a better job for citizens when they get a full range of information from all parties available. So thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you later about the open records violation. Thank you.
You've got resolutions, you've got ethics paper, and here on second page, section 4, general ethics principles. I think you guys need to read them. Abide by them. I've seen more controversy in this city in the 4 years I've been in Swain County, and it's no wonder you can't grow, because there's certain people that want to run the program. That isn't what we elected you to do. You're supposed to represent all the people. So maybe you ought to look at your own papers and take heed. But you sure don't seem to be doing a good job of it.
Doug Riddick, 1326 Parkwood Drive. Currently, I am the chairman of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Citizens Advisory Board. I've been on that, I think this is my last year. It will be my 8th year. And I've enjoyed it. One of the best things I think we worked through was the dog park, Barkley Park. It took a lot of our effort. But throughout the years, I've always been discouraged that there's very few people coming to those meetings. We are a Citizens Advisory Board. There are 7 of us. We really should represent the city, the citizens of this city. We meet this coming Wednesday at 4 o'clock in this very room. And I just want the folks here to realize that they can have a voice in what's happening in the Parks and Rec Department. But they got to come up and be there and talk to us. Whatever your view is on any of this, I just want to extend the invitation whatever your view is, this is another avenue for you to come and voice your opinions and be part of the city government. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One question. Mr. Scruggs, is there any way that you could get back with us on that medley restricted gift and confirm where its destination was and what it's being used for?
Certainly. I've received a copy of the document that was provided by the Parks Department. We're aware of the stipulations that are attached to it, and we'll keep it. But if you'd like a copy, we can provide you one.
I have to ask it anyway, since it was asked. I think I know what your response is going to be, but is there any room in the employee hearing for any of us to audit the process?
No, there's not. That's not provided by the personnel policy or otherwise.
Anyone else that would like to address the commission under the citizens forum? We'll move on to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time. I believe there are none. That'll bring us to the consent agenda.